Today, our adventure takes us to the Florida Keys, a place that is a fisherman's paradise, full of fish like mahi-mahi, tuna, and square grouper. There's a saying whispered around the Florida Keys. Every fisherman has a story, but some stories never reach the docks. This is one of those stories, the tale of a man the locals knew as Lobo, a quiet fisherman born and raised in Marathon, a man who understood the tides better than he understood people, and a man whose disappearance still fuels rumors drifting across the islands like summer storms. Lobo's real name was Luis Marquez, and from the moment he was old enough to stand on the bow of his skiff, he belonged to the water. His earliest memories were of warm backcountry shallows, shimmering coral heads, the salt on his lips, and the feel of a cast net swinging past his shoulder. While other kids rode bikes or played video games, Lobo learned to free dive for lobster, weave through mangrove tunnels, and read the color of the water like a seasoned captain. Life wasn't easy, but it was honest, and Lobo believed deeply that the ocean rewarded respect and punished greed. But the Florida Keys were complicated. Beneath the postcard-perfect water and laid-back charm was a darker current one filled with smugglers, mysterious night runs, and the infamous square groupers that sometimes washed ashore during the waning days of the cocaine era. Through it all, Lobo lived by a simple rule: fish for fish, not for ghosts. He wasn't interested in smuggling, drug money, or easy shortcuts. He stuck to lobster, yellowtail, and whatever else the reefs and shallows were willing to give him. But life, especially life in the Keys, has a habit of testing a man's principles. Lobo's pride and joy, aside from the water itself, was his younger brother Miguel, who had inherited the same love of fishing but not the same discipline. Together they worked a battered 19-foot skiff with a fading Johnson 150 strapped to the back. It never looked good, but it always got them home, until one steaming July afternoon when Miguel, trying to show off to friends, pushed the engine far harder than it could handle. The motor exploded in a cloud of smoke and grinding metal. Their only source of income was now a useless hunk of aluminum hanging off the transom. A new powerhead would cost nearly $10,000, money the brothers didn't have. Miguel was devastated. Lobo said nothing. He just stared at the dead engine long after the sun went down, as if waiting for it to come back to life. But it never did. The next night, Lobo sat alone at Keys Fisheries, nursing a beer and a sense of impending doom. That's when a stranger walked in, a man with slick hair, clean clothes, and shoes far too polished for a place where fishermen came covered in salt and scales. He sat beside Lobo and spoke without introduction. "You look like a man who knows these waters." Lobo ignored him. The stranger continued, casually mentioning a package floating near Pigeon Key, offering $10,000 for a simple pickup. Lobo asked what kind of package. The man only smiled and said, "The kind that drifts." Lobo stood up to leave, but the stranger called after him, reminding him exactly how much a new motor cost. The number hung in the air like bait on a hook. Lobo walked out, but the seed was planted, and seeds grow fast in desperate soil. For 3 days, thunderstorms hammered the Keys. While wind rattled the windows, Lobo lay awake, staring at the ceiling, replaying the stranger's offer in his mind. Miguel apologized again and again, convinced he had ruined them. On the fourth night, Lobo quietly grabbed the boat keys. Miguel asked where he was going, but Lobo didn't answer. "Stay here," was all he said. With the engine coughing like a dying animal, Lobo eased the skiff into the black water. The moon was low, shrouded by drifting clouds. The only sound was the gentle slap of waves against the hull. He followed the coordinates the stranger had slipped into his pocket, his heart pounding harder with each mile. When he reached the location, he spotted it immediately, a small blinking strobe bobbing gently in the current. Attached to it was a waterproof duffel bag. Lobo cut the engine. Only the sound of water remained. He hauled the bag aboard, surprised by its weight. He unzipped it just enough to see the tightly wrapped bricks inside cocaine, stacked like bleached stone, far more than he had ever imagined, far more than he wanted anything to do with. Before he could fully process what he'd done, he heard something, the low rumble of another engine approaching fast. He turned. A second boat was coming, running without lights, slicing through the dark water like a shark. Someone else was coming for the package. Instinct took over. Lobo yanked the throttle wide open, and the worn-out Johnson screamed. The skiff jumped forward, barely holding together as he tore across the flats. The other boat accelerated behind him. It was bigger, heavier, faster. The chase ripped through mangrove channels and across the shallow basins only a true local could navigate at night. Lobo zigzagged through hair-thin cuts between coral heads, water spraying over the bow, engine whining on the edge of destruction. He knew he couldn't outrun them forever, but he could outsmart them. Lobo cut hard to starboard and slipped into a narrow mangrove tunnel, barely wider than his skiff. Branches scraped the hull, mosquitoes swarmed in the headlamp beam. He spotted a pocket of thick mangroves ahead, throttled down, grabbed the heavy duffel, and threw it deep into the roots. The bag vanished beneath the tangled branches. Lobo burned the spot into his memory. Then he pushed back out, pretending he had never seen the package at all. The pursuing boat entered the tunnel too fast. The sound of metal hitting concrete echoed through the night as they slammed into a low bridge support. Screams followed, a splash, then silence. Unsure whether they were alive, Lobo kept going. He didn't stop until he reached open water again, heart hammering in his chest. By sunrise, the story had already spread across Marathon. A burnt hull washed up near Boot Key. Coast Guard cutters combed the area. Rumors swirled about a smuggling run gone wrong. But nobody talked about the missing package, and nobody saw Lobo. That night, he returned to the mangroves alone. The bag was still there. He hauled it back to the skiff and brought it home. When Miguel saw it, he begged Lobo to dump it overboard. Lobo shook his head. "We'll take it far from here," he said. "We'll get the money and be done with this." But trouble travels faster than any boat. Word spread. People started asking questions, people who were far more dangerous than the men in the crashed boat. Strange vehicles appeared near the house. Men lingered at the marina. Lobo realized the Keys were no longer safe for either of them. One stormy night, he told Miguel to pack a bag. They were leaving at sunrise. But sunrise came and Lobo was gone. Miguel never heard the boat start, never heard footsteps. The skiff was still tied to the dock. The duffel was nowhere to be found. So was Lobo. For weeks, the Keys buzzed with rumors that Lobo fled to Cuba, that the cartel dragged him underwater with concrete blocks, that he escaped under a new name. But every version agreed on one thing. Lobo didn't vanish by accident. And then, a month later, during an unusually high tide, something washed ashore on Sombrero Beach, the same waterproof duffel, torn open, completely empty. Locals still claim that on moonless nights, you can hear an old Johnson 150 tearing across the flats, echoing out of nowhere, chasing something through the dark. They say the sound never gets closer, never fades, just circles endlessly like a wake that never settles. Some believe it's just the wind. Others believe it's Lobo, still running, still trying to escape the choice he made. Whatever the truth is, one thing remains clear: the ocean gives, the ocean takes, and the Florida Keys, some stories are swallowed whole by the water. But the wake never disappears. Thank you for watching this video. Like and subscribe to help our channel grow so we can give you more videos like this one.